This is one of the wildest cases I covered, and it was this guy. He was somewhere in America. He was kind of like a middle-aged guy. I can't remember where, like, I covered this case about a year ago, so I'm not remembering all the details all together well. But so he was doing his thing. He was like a middle-aged guy, whatever, and his dad had like Alzheimer's or dementia or something. So they hired a carer to look after his dad, whose name was Pete Senior or whatever. And so the son, Pete Junior, he started to notice that the carer was robbing his dad. Because his dad, was getting, like, had dementia and wasn't altogether there anymore. And so she was, like, getting him to sign, withdrawing, thousands and, maxing out his credit cards and all this stuff. So he started, like, to just try to sue her and try to do all these things. And then, do you know what happened? One day, right, because she knew the jig was up at this point, that the game was over. So what she did was she got a gun in her own house. She killed her husband. This woman did, this caretaker. And then what she did, she picked up the phone. She called her own mother and said, Pete Coons Jr. is coming to kill me. And then she shot herself. She murder-suicided herself and her husband. And then because of the phone call, they blamed it on Pete Jr., who wasn't there at all. He ended up getting charged and convicted and doing 12 years in prison for obviously a murder he didn't commit, a murder-suicide that was blamed on him. He got out of prison. He died like 2 months later because in prison he developed cancer. And I guess, health services in prison aren't altogether as good as they would be on the outside. And he appealed and it was successful after 12 years in prison. And then he died. It's like the most sad and wild story I ever heard in my life.
Wow, that's like the Balrog yanking down Gandalf.
Yes, last second.
That's crazy. That's spiteful.
I know. It's like her revenge on him, like to get him back, was to kill her husband and herself, and like she wasn't even going to be alive to see like the revenge play out. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard in my life.
He didn't even wrong her. He just caught her.
Yeah,
like she was the one doing bad things.
Exactly. Yeah. She was robbing his dad, who was obviously he was kind of not really there anymore. But it was a wild story. Like that's definitely one of those ones where you're like, yeah, I don't even know how they convicted him. It was mainly on the basis of the phone call where she was like, he's coming into the house, he's coming to kill me, and yada yada yada. So that was, but I mean, he did 12 years for that, and if he could have done the rest of his life, which turned out not to be that long. But yeah, that was an odd one. But speaking of cases about like people getting caught, if you don't know the victim, like if you're just a random serial killer or something, the chances of you, getting caught are very, very low. Like it's nearly always, somebody they know, like it's the classic statistic of it's going to be your husband, your wife or whatever. Mm-hmm. But with these like serial killer cases like I've covered and stuff like that, these people can get away for decades and never be caught because it's just,
it's like impossible. There's the current, there's no way to know who did it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't the solve rate currently in the US something like 50%?
That sounds about right.
Sound right?
Yeah. That definitely
it's
sounds
just
right.
way lower than I think most people realize. That if you look at the flip side of that, there's you flip a coin, it's like heads you get away with murder and tails you don't.